Good morning, everyone from the Pacific Northwest. Thank you for joining us today. This is the ESHA Research webinar for creating additional label statements in Genesis. My name is Alicia, and I'll be guiding you through creating these label-related statements in Genesis. We really appreciate you attending today. In this 30-minute overview, we'll cover Genesis features, and we'll also follow this with a brief Q&A session. Today we'll discuss ingredient statements, allergen statements, nutrient content claims, barcodes, and then address questions. As we go through this webinar, please let us know if you can hear and you can see the presentation. We appreciate the feedback. Also during the presentation, if you think of questions, submit those through your chat function. We will be sending everyone a follow-up message, including a recording of today's webinar. This is a series of webinars presenting Genesis R&D features. We will also have upcoming webinars, including creating advanced U.S. labels. This will include dual declaration and aggregate labels. And we will also have another on creating EU-compliant nutrition labels. You can visit our website to view the recorded messages as well as to register for those to come. In addition to tutorials and webinars that highlight specific features of Genesis, we also offer beginning and advanced training seminars throughout the year. Or if you have a larger group or need a customized agenda, we can come to you. Please check the ESHA website for training schedules or contact training@esha.com for more details. Genesis has been around for some time as a powerful industry tool for product formulation and labeling. We typically release 2 software updates each year with new features, improvements, and any changes that are mandated by government regulations. We're keeping a watchful eye on US, Canadian, Mexican, and EU regulations. We incorporate these changes into the software. Maintaining your priority support service is a great way to ensure that you receive these updates with no interruptions. I'll be demonstrating the current Genesis version today. If your features don't quite look the same, you may want to contact ESHA Sales and check on your account status. The updates for the software also include new items and changes to the ESHA ingredient database. We provide you with over 60,000 foods and ingredients, and you can also add as many new ingredients to your software as you need. So let's dive into Genesis. The previous webinar covered creating nutrition facts panels. Today we're going to work on the statements that accompany the label. I'm going to open a recipe, and here I've created a pasta with marinara sauce. You'll see the total recipe includes pasta, additional ingredients, and a marinara sauce as a sub-recipe. In Genesis, over to the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the reports available. Today we'll focus on the label display. You'll see the elements here on the label display screen. This is a really handy report because you can work on your nutrition facts panel or ingredient statements and other statements and see those changes on the fly. You'll see nutrition facts panel here, ingredient statement as it sits in its current state, an allergen statement with US allergens, as well as an additional allergen statement. This additional allergen statement addresses needs for Canadian and EU labeling. Because I'm focusing on US labels today, I'm going to hide this statement. If you right-click on any areas of the screen, you'll see the settings available. One of these options is the show, and I'm going to hide my additional allergen statement. Again, right-click anywhere, you'll see this menu. I can get to my label settings, ingredient statement, allergen statement, or nutrient content claims, or the barcode settings from here. In this case, we'll choose ingredient statement and go to the ingredient statement screen. You notice this screen is made up of 3 sections. The top section shows your ingredient in the recipe. Again, we've got our pasta, additional ingredients, and the sub-recipe. If I show the sub-recipe, I can see all of the additional ingredients in it. The middle section lists the ingredients by descending order of weight, and this is what is driving the ingredient statement below. The third portion down below shows the ingredient statement as your work in progress. So again, any changes that you make are reflected down here. Back up to the top portion of the screen, you'll see several columns. You'll have the item name, and this is the ESHA name for the ingredient. It's often quite descriptive. Again, percent by weight, but this is in the order of the recipe itself that you've entered. Alternate name column, alternate text, and then we also offer translations. The alternate name column is partially populated for ESHA ingredients. What we do is try and provide you with alternate names or common names for ingredients such as whole plain foods. We won't provide you alternate names for mixed foods. One note that if you add your own ingredients, it's a good idea to add these alternate names as you go. Add this information when you know most about the ingredient. The alternate text would be parenthetical information that displays on the ingredient statement. In my sub-recipe, it's pulling in the ingredient names from the selected ingredients and placing them in one section. Like I said, we also offer translations for some ingredients. If we have an alternate name in English and can provide you with a French or a Spanish translation, we will include those as well. If you need these translations for all ingredients, you'll need to add those. You can see down here, if we don't offer a translation, it will just pull the name that is given, either the ESHA name or the alternate name. If I need to make edits to any of these names, right-click on any of the ingredient lines. Here you can edit, and a smaller edit ingredient statement screen opens. Alternate name, again, means the common name that you would want displayed for that ingredient on the ingredient statement. Ingredient statement field refers to any parenthetical information that you would want to see. This is an editable field. I can make changes right there, click OK, and those changes are reflected down below. Again, this is a work in progress, so any changes I go are reflected in the label display report. There are a few settings that I may want to select to make my ingredient statement a little clearer or reader-friendly. So right-clicking on the ingredient statement or anywhere on this page gets me to settings. I can also go up above, click on label, go to settings, and some of these ingredient statement feature settings are found within the label settings. Here I can choose format options, scroll down a bit under US labels, scroll down to ingredient statement. I can insert a contains less than 2% statement. I can also list my ingredient statement in all uppercase, and I'll do the same for the allergen statement since I'm here. Now this may be a little more how I want it to appear on my package. So I chose the contains less than 2% statement. In this recipe, at this point, it's only pulling salt, and we can change that to include a few more ingredients. Going back to the ingredient statement screen, you'll see I have my sub-recipe and all of the ingredients within. amount of salt that I've used up above in the main recipe and the amount of salt used in the sub-recipe are showing. If I right-click on my sub-recipe, I have a few options. Expanded is selected, so that means it's showing all of the ingredients within. If I choose Merge All, it will change that. Now it's merged my recipes, and it's showing here less than 2% of the spices, the salt, and a few other ingredients. These are all just options to customize how you want to display. Now we'll move on to the allergen statement. Again, right-clicking on that anywhere on the screen gets you to the menu. You can choose allergen statement, and it opens the allergens and allergen statement screen. Another screen consisting of 3 parts. The top portion lists all of the allergens available for your recipe. The middle section lists each ingredient and the allergens that can apply. The bottom portion is your allergen statement as it is currently. If I work with the top section of the screen, I can select or omit allergens for my entire recipe. So here, I can uncheck any of these, but please keep in mind, using the allergens on the recipe level will clear all allergens for the ingredients used in this recipe. If I know that all of my ingredients contain no eggs, contain no fish, etc., then I can select as appropriate. And again, any changes are reflected in my current allergen statement shown here below. Additionally, I can make changes to individual ingredients in the middle section. If I've wiped out all of them, but I need to go back and mark one, I can do so. But again, just be mindful that any changes you make to the recipe label may affect that ingredient's record, so just give thought to what you're doing with the allergen statement. Next, we'll address nutrient content claims. I'm not displaying these at this point because I haven't reviewed the claims that I want to choose. So I can right-click, choose Show, click on Nutrient Content Claims to open the Nutrient Content Claims screen. And this screen has several bits of information to it. It will show you various nutrients that are available to make claims about, the possible claims that can be made, if those are qualified or not, and the amounts that they are based on. Genesis is looking at the serving size that you have set to determine which claims qualify. So again, be mindful. This is based for U.S. labels on the RAC, the FDA reference amounts customarily consumed. So if the RAC defines a serving size for a particular food as 100 grams, but your product, you've set the serving size at 400 grams, you may be seeing qualifications for claims that may or may not be appropriate. So here I look for the green checks as to claims that will be available. And if I want to include those, I can check them and display them. So give consideration to which claims are pertinent to your product and those that you want to display. Our last feature that we'll cover today is the barcode. Again, right-clicking on the label display gets us to the barcode on the menu. This has several elements to it. You can choose the product type from the drop-down screen. Enter your manufacturer code for each product that you're working on. Include a product code. There is a checksum digit, and this creates a 12-digit UPC code. If I want to include text with my barcode, I can do this as well. Show the barcode. Let's make sure we showed that correctly. There it is. Again, these elements can be moved around, so sometimes if you do display something, don't see it, it might be hidden behind another piece of information. So here's our barcode. All of these elements are exportable, and if you have questions about that, tech support is happy to help. So this covers the features that we're looking at today. We'll take a few minutes to assess our questions and begin answering those. We really appreciate you joining us. And again, look to additional webinars coming up in the future. We will be sending you a reminder notice again and a recording of today's webinar, but please feel free to visit the website with the recordings from previous webinars. We ready for questions? Okay, here's one. How do I list the ingredient from my supplier's product if I don't know the amount of each ingredient? So you want your ingredient statement to be as accurate as possible, and that is limited to the information that you have available from your suppliers. So one option you can choose is to list ingredients parenthetically. So if you don't know the amounts of each ingredient in a sub-recipe, list the name of the product with its common name and then parenthetically the additional ingredients included. Genesis needs the specific weight for each ingredient in order to merge, like we showed the merging feature. But if it doesn't have specific weights of each sub-ingredient, it can't do the calculations to merge. So gather as much detail from your supplier and include that on your ingredient statement. Good question. Okay, we have another. When I use ESHA database ingredients, how do I assign the correct allergens if I don't have ingredient lists for these? Yes, so with ingredients and allergen statements, again, you want to list specific ingredients used in your products, and the nutrient information on the label allows for variance, but you have to perform due diligence to report those ingredients and allergens correctly. So again, gather as much information from your suppliers to include accurate information and as much detail about your ingredients and allergens as possible. Another, on the ingredient statement, what order are the 2% ingredients listed in? They seem random. Good question. So when we've merged, use that merge option again, it's pulling ingredients by their ESHA name, and if you have edited or have an alternate name, it's not necessarily in alphabetical order by those alternate names, it's in alphabetical order by the ESHA name. So just be mindful of that. There is a way to go in and edit with text, and you can do that in the ingredient statement features. There is an edit button, and open up that screen to edit the text completely. Another question, if I deep fry my products, how do I include the oil in my ingredient statement? Okay, so when you're working with deep fried items, the oil in the recipe, you'd want to consider that an ingredient in your recipe. So you'll want to consider how much oil ends up in the consumed product and then add that amount and the appropriate oil to your recipe. Genesis will know then the amount that was used in your recipe and will place the oil in the correct descending order of your ingredient statement. So another question, great question, is there a regulation reason to include the less than 2% statement? This is one of the options. The ingredient statement has some options, and one is to include parenthetical information or merge those. If you merge those, you may not want to list each ingredient in its descending order. so that that recipe or product could be rebuilt. So choosing the 2% statement is an option that you can include just as a more generic way to say these ingredients provide minimal amounts to my product and fall under this 2%. Another question, do you need to save to have your options shown on the screen? That is a great question. And it's always a good idea to save. So that may be a good practice. Once you've made selections within the settings, choose Save and look for the changes that you've made. So another question, where can I add the statement made in a facility processed with other? So that cross-contamination statement. I'll just open this back up again. So with the ingredient statement I was describing, and I'll show this on the allergen statement, when we go to that ingredient statement screen, down below there's an edit button. The software itself is set to default as program-generated ingredient statements, so it's pulling those ingredient names in automatically. If I uncheck this box, then it opens the ingredient statement screen up to a purely text field. You can type anything in here. So in your ingredient statement, if you had an and or statement that you needed to include, you could certainly do that. With the ingredient statement, very similar. Or excuse me, the allergen statement, open the allergen statement, find the edit button at the bottom. Again, this is a program-generated allergen statement, so it's automatically filling this information in. Uncheck the box, and this becomes a text field. You can add that statement down below. Is there a way to combine like ingredients? So the merge, as we use the merge feature, that was combining the salts that we had in the recipe. So I had salt in my primary section of my recipe and then salt as well in the marinara sauce. When you use that merge feature, it will look for the alternate names that are like or exactly the same and combine those. So yes, you can combine the like ingredients. Those will end up on your ingredient statement. So the current version is version 9.14. There will be another version coming up later on this summer, I believe, is expected. That will include, again, new ingredients, updated data, nutrient data, new features, and so look for that. Whenever we send out an update, we do send the user that we have on our account receives notification. So the updates are now all downloadable and will update your existing to the current state. Again, if you have any questions about the status of your account, if you're not sure that you're receiving updates or the features that I've shown today don't quite look like what you see in your software, contact sales. They can give you more information about upgrading, updating, or keeping current on the software. This concludes our seminar today. So again, we really appreciate you attending. Please provide feedback. We'll address any other questions that come in and email those directly to you. And thank you again and have a great day.